Carrie Dillion is the Managing Director of the International Textile Alliance, a non-profit association that promotes the textile industry, educates members, and provides networking opportunities. Purchasing fabrics, and even more so, keeping up with trends and sustainability measures can be a challenge, and the ITA aims to bridge the gap between manufacturers and designers and connect the dots between the two parties. In this podcast, Gail and Aaron will explore Carrie's involvement with ITA's educational programs, the latest hot topics around textiles that designers should care about, and the advancement of women in the industry. We hope you enjoy! Make sure to learn more and register for our upcoming events. On September 13th, you can attend the free Financial Masterclass. Or, if you're in Houston, Gail Doby will be speaking at Design Edge Houston on the 13th and 14th. We'll also be announcing our High Point Market appearances and events very soon. Go to our events page at thepearlcollective.com/events to keep up to date on where we'll be.
Carrie, it's so nice for you to join us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of market, your busy market, to be with us today. And it's even raining outside and you made it here. So we'd love for you to just talk a little bit about what the International Textile Alliance is and the types of members that you have, and so that we can inform our audience about what you do.
Sure. Well, first, thank you, Aaron, for inviting me to be here, and Gail as well. It's great to meet you both. The International Textile Alliance. So we are a nonprofit business association that works to advance the textile industry and educate our members. The main benefit of membership in our association is our trade show, Interwoven Textile Fair by ITA, which we host twice a year in May and November. On top of that, we also have an educational foundation that focuses on not only educating our members, but also educating students and trying to encourage young people to come into this industry.
Great.
Our members are really the textile mills, leather tanneries, trimmings manufacturers, suppliers to the industry, really anyone that's manufacturing decorative coverings or is a supplier to the industry, like yarn makers, things like that.
So Showtime was your previous trade show, and now it's called Interwoven. So tell us a little bit about that and what the differences are.
I would love to. So that was, we had been Showtime since 1990. So, for a long time, that's what we were known as. We felt like, especially after COVID, some of the buyers were getting used to the reps coming to them, showing them fabric in their offices, and thought, well, this is easy. Why do I need to go back to the show? So part of it was the thinking was bringing those buyers back to the show, encouraging them to come back to the show, as well as bringing new buying segments to the show.
Okay.
So we thought the rebrand give us a elevated, clean, modern look, so that would appeal to newer buyers. But also really improving that buyer experience. So we really focused on improving the education. So this coming up in May, we've got 2 full days of education. Most of it is based around a theme of back to basics is our theme this show. So Textiles 101, Leather 101. We have some trend presentations. Just a variety of education that would appeal to those buyers that they're not going to get in their office.
Mm-hmm.
They need to come back to see the education. The other thing is that you can't network with the executives of the companies from your office. The sales rep comes to you, but not necessarily. And so that's a good time to just get to know the brand better. A lot of times you might work up a new deal when you're meeting with these executives.
Mm-hmm.
But so we also focused on really using that new clean look, doing a lot more marketing. So doing LinkedIn campaigns, ads in trade publications, and really just some direct outreach through mailings and calls to buyers who either haven't attended in a few shows or buyers that we think should attend that haven't been before.
Okay.
So, and it's been actually very successful. Our first show with the rebranding and all these marketing efforts, 20% of the people that registered and attended were new buyers. So it
That's
obviously
great.
was making an impact.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about running a trade organization and a trade fair. I mean, that's got to be a daunting task. And how did you come to be a part of the organization? And how do you manage both the business and the creative sides of your work? Sounds like almost like an interior design firm in a lot of ways.
Well, it is, and I think like a lot of interior design firms, it's currently a one-person operation. But you asked how I ended up with the ITA. Like every kind of job that I've had in the home furnishings industry, it's been very serendipitous. I just kind of fall into it. And so this particular position, the woman that was there before me, she had a textile design background. So she kind of came in as an intern, got a job with one of our members designing textiles. And so the executive director at the time went down in our building, was talking to one of the other showroom managers, and, what am I going to do? I'm losing my assistant director. And he said, well, why don't you call Carrie? I think, y'all would probably be a good fit for each other. And it really she called me that afternoon and we had a long conversation. And then, a few weeks later, I'm talking to the board and I was hired. And it was a really good fit for the experience that I had in the industry before that, working the trade show. So that's kind of how I got into it. I've been there it'll be 9 years in November. But it is a balance of the business and the creative side. It really just takes a lot of time management and discipline. And you're never going to be bored. It's never the same thing. That's one of the things that I love about it, is that we're, negotiating contracts with different organizations. And when I say I do have a board of directors that is a volunteer board, but they're very involved and support me a lot. But there is, there's the business side. Got to get the financials done, making those projections, but then also get to work on things like last year when we did the rebranding. And so that was a lot of fun working with our new marketing agency. Things like coming up with what the theme for the show is going to be, how we're going to market to the members, and, bring in new buyers. So again, you're not going to be bored. There's never, no week is the same. But it's a great, you couldn't find another job like this. Like if I wanted to go and try and do this same thing somewhere else, I have no idea where that would be. I don't think there is anywhere that would be just like this. So it's a great job and I enjoy it a lot.
Sounds like fun.
It is. It really
I can tell that you enjoy it just by the way that you talk about it and your energy around it. It's exciting.
It is. It's a great gig.
So with your show, designers can come to your show.
Designers can come to the show, but that's how I talked about like the sticker and stuff, but to the trade, that's what we try really hard to say. These are the showrooms that want to sell to you. Not want to sell to you
because they're set up.
Cut yardage. Yeah, because like some of them, they're not going to cut a bolt and sell you 12 yards off of it. And then
just to get pillows.
Right. And then another one, like there might be, the reason I mentioned the appointments is because there might be members that do sell directly to designers. They might even have a designer program. But at Interwoven, there might be booked for 10 days, and not 10 days, for 3 or 4 days with the furniture manufacturers while they might want to sell a designer, that week they're trying to sell, 100,000 yards. They want to put in big placements for these big orders. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like Valdez, for example, they sell to designers, they sell to manufacturers. Their showroom during market is completely different than it is during Interwoven because it's set up to serve a designer and the sampling and all that. They do samplers during the show. So I thought I'd cut that off. But no, we 100% welcome designers. And then there is like the Trend Gallery is going to be really great.
And the Trend Gallery is going to be in Market
Square, on that fifth floor.
And then there will be extension of that at the Hall of Fame.
Yes, kind of will more of a finished product version expression of that trend.
Is the Trend Gallery something that we could bring designers to see?
100%, yes. Okay. And that's on the same floor with all of our education It's also that temporary floor is a great place to start because you can again just walk by and see everybody's. I mean, you can see everything's open versus the showrooms. It's kind of like a lot of times you get stopped at the door if you don't have an appointment. So, and that's why I do try to make it really clear, because I've had designers tell me before, I came and this sales rep was rude to me, and there's absolutely no reason for that, but he might be the one at the door.
Well, even with our industry passes we have industry passes here, and there's people I know in showrooms that I can't get to because the keeper at the door is industry is not allowed. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Walking into Fort Hill the other day, they were like, and I'm like, well, I'm here to see Rick. So you're going to need to let me know.
It's interesting that that's the whole thing, but at least they're good gatekeepers, I guess.
Hey, tough job. I wouldn't be very good at that. So
And so what did you start out doing in the industry before you started doing this?
So, I mean, really, I was a marketing and sales assistant, I think was my title, at Linwood Furniture, which was a manufacturer that they were kind of trying to, it actually was a Lexington plant that when they started moving Bob Timberlake's collection overseas, he bought this plant to keep his furniture manufactured here. And so they made stuff for Lexington, and other people, and then had their own collection. But I mean, I fell into that. Barbara Stangl was designing their showroom, and they were looking for someone, and so they connected me, and I was then in the home furnishings industry, and then I kind of fell into J. Douglas.
Amazing.
Yes, they are, and one of my very good friends worked for them at the time. And so that's kind of how I met them and fell into that. But, they're definitely a good, talking about mentors and people to talk to and get great advice from. They're certainly.
They sure could be.
Yes, definitely. My first gig, and I've just kind of stayed. I mean, I think like a lot of people, you get into this industry and you stay. The key is teaching or helping these other students understand how great it is. And to come in, a lot of them don't know about some of these jobs.
I think that I was on a panel at High Point University through the Hall of Fame Leadership Institute in February, and we had a great time. And it was just all sorts of different walks of life that were doing these different panels for the students. And what I thought was so interesting is, our industry doesn't necessarily look that sexy on paper. But as we were talking about, there was one of the family members from Ashley Furniture, and she was talking about how she got to, be overseas for a couple of years and running a show, like a big show over there for, age 25. And, someone else that is now the owner of a major company. And then one was talking about how he loves to go to Vegas, and, he just is a Vegas guy, and he gets to go to market, and he gets to do this. And then I'm talking about how, kids, and I get to travel, and I get to work with people and really see them succeed in their businesses. And so, just to see them, it's not always going to connect with the students, but for them to start understanding that, there's some really amazing opportunities.
So there are,
and great people.
Great people.
Well, tell us a little bit about what interior designers don't know about the textile industry. I'm sure there's quite a bit.
I would say one of the main things that I know I didn't know before going into the industry was that the brands that you see in the design centers, the one that the interior designers are working with the most, those companies we refer to them as jobbers in our little section of the textile world, but they are not necessarily designing and weaving all of the fabrics that they offer. They really are going to shows like ours and other textile shows and curating, shopping from different mills, curating those into books, stocking them, sampling it, making it easy for the designers to get them. So, I don't know if interior designers know that. I didn't know that before I came in and thought that was interesting. I would say something that interior designers wouldn't necessarily know about our show is that our show is really focused on, or traditionally it was created for the furniture manufacturer. We're here in High Point. So they'll come They'll select the fabrics that they then put on the frames for the following furniture market. If those fabrics sell, then they start placing orders with our members, and those hopefully are hundreds and thousands of yards of rolls that they're selling. So they're at our show, they're not specifically geared towards selling cut yardage. We have probably a third of our members do sell cut yardage and do work directly with interior designers. And so we do, they're designated on our website and on their showrooms with a to the trade sticker to make sure that it's clear and that, you know, a designer doesn't waste their time with somebody who's not going to sell them yet less than 50 yards. That you know, you don't always necessarily need 50 yards for a project of the same fabric. And so I think that's something good for designers to know, because our show, Interwoven, is a very appointment-driven show. And so if you just come and show up at the door, it's not going to be quite as productive as if you kind of look at who's exhibiting and make those plans ahead of time. Our members might see 100 appointments in a week, and it might be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. one after the other. And so it's a very effective way for them to show their new lines. It also shows much nicer in the showroom than it does out of a backpack or a suitcase going to the office. But it really is very appointment driven. I say that we have a temporary floor, which is a good place to start, where you can kind of walk around the floor, see the lines that are being presented, and talk to the exhibitors there. And then also for, you know, what I feel like we really offer the interior designers is that education as well. It's a great place to come and learn. We try to be that resource for the designer and help people understand all these things about the textile world and about the textiles themselves.
Is the show here at High Point Market?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. We are in High Point.
Okay.
The hub of our show is in Market Square. So the majority, we have, there's 10 floors of permanent showrooms where the textile manufacturers and leather tanneries have a permanent showroom. They only generally use it twice a year, just like the rest of the showrooms in High Point. But it is not during High Point Market. It's in May. So our show is right after this show. So the manufacturers that are here showing their new product on the floor, they kind of take that feedback from the retailers and the designers, and then they come to our show in a month, look at what our members are introducing, and kind of use that feedback and what they are, the trends that are being projected, and make their purchases for the next show.
Wow. So interesting. I
had no idea.
No idea about any of this.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your organization. And you definitely are on the leading edge of a number of initiatives. And so let's talk a little bit about sustainability and circularity.
I would love to. That is something, speaking of the show, our members show all their samples, these long pieces of beautiful fabric. But the next show, they're going to need to replace those. And so between each show, there was all these samples being thrown away. And really, since I've started, people within the organization, we've been looking for things to do with this, whether it's donating them to church groups or, different organizations that can reuse them. But you might talk to someone that'll say, I'll take everything that you have. And then they realize they're going to need a tractor trailer. And so they come, they take a few boxes, and somebody may come and take a few more. But before now, we've not had a way to really recycle all of it or put it to use even. We found an organization in Morganton. It's called the Material Return. They actually can take the fabric, they chop it up, down to the fiber, and they can use it for insulation, or they can even turn it into new yarn and actually weave a new fabric with it. So you could have a company talking about the circularity. One of our members could work with them, say, here are my samples from the last show. Please recycle these, and then we want to use that yarn to make a collection, for the next show, this new design. And so that's something very new. We are very grateful to the Sustainable Furnishings Council, because they have provided the financial support to do that, because there is a cost to it. And so we were grateful to have them partner with us. But it's very exciting because we've been working on it for so long. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about some of the education that you do for designers. What are some of the conversations and what are some of the topics that you teach to the designers?
So, well, we, just like a lot of organizations during COVID, we started doing webinars, things like, business and the new normal, and even like some buyer focus groups focus group is the right word, but panel discussions, just talking to different buyers. It might be, we've done some on like a fabric to frame, like how, if you've got a beautiful design like this, how do you apply it to this so that the design meets and kind of flows down through the arm. I mean, it's more expensive it takes more fabric, obviously, to be able to match up a pattern, make it look nice. So thinking about how, when you're buying the fabric, how it's going to be upholstered, and then also teaching the upholsterer, making sure the fabric's marked so the upholsterer knows where you want it to match and how you want the fabric laid out. During this upcoming show, like I mentioned, this, Textiles 101, it's Kevin Von Allman with Valdez Weavers. He does a great presentation. You can go to their mill and take the tour, and there you can actually see from start to finish, the yarn being dyed and, being woven, the designs, that you can see everything there, which we can't necessarily bring to the show. But certainly it's a good education on the textiles themselves. Same thing Sackett Wood will be doing. He's with Moore & Giles, the CEO of Moore & Giles, doing a leather 101. We have, Cotton Incorporated will be doing a presentation for us. Lensing Fibers is doing a panel discussion with Cotton Incorporated and Unify and Lenzig, a couple of other organizations. We'll be doing one on ESG that's the Sustainable Leather Foundation. We'll be doing that presentation, so more, business. And then we have Fashion Snoops, our partner, will be doing a trend forecast for us for spring summer 24, which is what most of the buyers will be shopping for at this show.
They're great.
So yes,
Snoops.
yeah, they're a great partner. And then actually even a couple of presentations about the science in design and biophilia. So there's just a variety of different education that we welcome designers and anyone to come and enjoy.
I know our designers, our crew of designers at Pearl Collective would certainly love to go through a factory to be able to see the yarn and being created and dyed and then made into the fabric. That would be a great experience.
It really is. It's something we used to do with our educational foundation, and hope to do again, where we would bring in a group of students from the design schools across the country and put them in a hotel, put them on a bus. It was like a 3-day experience, and we would take them. We would take them to Valdez, go through the Textiles 101 there, take them to a design studio and let them look through the archives of the studio and kind of see how the designer works. We went to a rotary printing facility where there's these huge rolls and the paint's extruded through and you just get to watch the fabric roll, and you see the first layer of color put on and then the next layer of color. I mean, just really
amazing.
Yeah, really cool stuff. So I got to learn a lot during those tours. It's good education for me.
Well, talk a little bit about PFAs. I actually didn't know what that stood for until I read a little bit more about it in Architectural Digest. But talk a little bit about that and what that means, especially for interior designers right now.
Well, it certainly is a very complicated issue. I'm not a chemist, but it is something, you were hearing for many years. Performance was a hot topic, and we do still have plenty of performance fabrics, but so PFAS, basically, it's they're organic chemicals that have a fluorine carbon atom as part of their structure, and that atom has a really strong bond, which is why they call them forever chemicals. So basically, they get into the ecosystem and don't go away. There are like 9,000 different, PFAS with unique properties. Some of them have been shown to have, cause serious health issues like cancer and weakened immune systems. And so for that reason, people have started, organizations like the EPA has really started researching and looking to regulate those. For our members, there was one in particular, C6 offers the stain and oil repellency from the fabric. But while that specific one maybe hasn't proven to be cancer causing, it's part of the group, and really the whole group is being regulated. So in anticipation of those regulations, our members have started removing it, and really the furniture manufacturers started saying, hey, we're not going to take those chemicals and put them on our fabric. There are, for example, like California has already signed into law a law. It goes into effect in 2025, but it's banning textiles with PFAS. So if you can't sell it in California, you're not going to manufacture one fabric to sell in California and one to sell in the rest of the country. And so it's easier just to get rid of it all. And I have not talked to any of our members that are still using it. As far as I know, they're all taking that all out, but they do still have performance characteristics in their fabrics. And so, I mean, things like for example, Sunbrella doesn't, their technology is different. It's solution dyed acrylic. So it doesn't use that chemistry to use it. And I don't want to give a plug for a specific member, but they're just an example that a lot of people know. So I think it's just important for the designer to ask the questions though when they're buying fabrics, because there are still fabrics out there with those chemicals. It's also something where maybe we did a panel one time on performance and had a furniture manufacturer say, you pick your poison. It's not necessarily, this one hasn't necessarily proven to be bad, and it makes your furniture last, your fabric lasts longer, and so there's advantages to that. But I think the majority of people are just saying better safe than sorry. And so, it's just about asking the questions.
Well, talk to us a little bit about how you're involved with students and scholarships and some of the other educational parts of the trade.
Sure. So we have the ITA Educational Foundation that I mentioned earlier. While we do, that is the segment of our organization that educates our members and works, that committee works to develop the education for the show. But really, it's always been really focused on the students as well. So we have multiple competitions a year. We have a design competition. It's actually a textile design competition, but it's submitted as art, and the winning design is featured on our show guide at the show. And so that competition is twice a year. We have a Virginia Jackson design competition, which is an actual textile design. They send in boards with a woven fabric. It's 3 categories: jacquard, dobby, and print. They provide their inspiration for the design, and it is anonymous, and so you don't know what school it's coming from, but we have industry judges. They're actually judging right now. I usually set it up during High Point Market when everybody's in town, and they'll take a little bit of time and go judge. And so those students get a lot of recognition on our website, as well as monetary awards, but you really get to see what the students are coming up with. They also get some really good feedback on the design. So the judges rate them in 4 categories and then provide feedback on the design. And so I think that's really a good learning experience for them.
So are you doing any events or any education with students at High Point Market while everyone's in town?
So actually this show on Wednesday, I do have a few students coming from NC State, and they'll, for the past few years, with it does an education day in the fall. And so I participated in that the past few years, and really just organizing different showroom tours, but especially for these textile design students, it's great to go through with one of the buyers, and so they can say, okay, so this company manufactures this fabric, and this is why this is hot this season, and being able to really look and touch the fabric, seeing what's on trend right now, seeing what's selling, because that's all, it's one thing to design this beautiful textile, but if nobody's going to buy it, then, and I say that who would want to buy a beautiful textile, but if it's not the right scale for furniture, or something like that.
So you're also partnering with Fashion Snoops, and we love Fashion Snoops. They are just so avant-garde in their trend forecasting. It's so amazing. So talk about the global trends and what you can share about that.
I would be happy to. We also love Fashion Snoops. We have worked with them in different ways over many years, but ever since the first time that we started working with them, so Jay Animize is their VP of Home and Lifestyle, and so she's the main person that I work with. From the beginning, she said, we've got to find a way to help people connect those dots, meaning the trends start at interwoven, or they're shown through the fabric that's designed for interwoven, and then the manufacturers buy them, and then it comes to High Point Market, and then 6 to 12 months later it's on the retail floor and the consumers picking it up. And so we're already working with them now to provide the trends for our magazine, and to help us do some other trend education throughout the year at market and at our show. And then at one of the European shows last year, Jay was meeting with a couple of other people, or actually they were having lunch, and had this great idea that maybe we partner with the Market Authority to kind of connect those dots and the Hall of Fame. And so that's one of our new partnerships that we actually just saw the first, I guess, introduction of the Trend Gallery at the Hall of Fame yesterday.
Nice.
And so in May, we'll have 4 trends that are being introduced. It'll be a professional trend gallery on our temporary floor. So everyone will be able to come see those trends, and then one of those trends will be carried through to the Hall of Fame in October.
Okay.
So you'll see all the fabrics that are on display in May. You'll then see those applied to a chair or on an ottoman, and incorporated into the design with other pieces at the Hall of Fame. And so that's a great way to not only connect the dots for the industry, but also for the public that's going there to learn about our industry.
Very fun.
Yeah, it is. It's very exciting.
Well, the trends part, we all are interested in that, seeing what's coming up next and being ahead of the curve. So it's great that you're partnering with them.
Yes, they do a great job.
So let's talk about you. One, I know that you got a new puppy in your house.
We do.
What
Rosie.
kind of dog did you get?
That is an excellent question. She was advertised as a lab mix. And I shouldn't say.
And we're realizing she's a Chihuahua.
We are not sure what she is. Definitely, everyone that sees her is going, okay, Greyhound, or the vet said, I see Great Dane. And
she's a big dog.
Well, she will be. I mean, she's 6 months now. She's got big paws.
Okay.
But she does have that yellow lab coloring, and just a sweet little face. And so we don't know exactly what she's going to be, but she's got a great personality. She's very smart, and she's definitely going to be big. But that's not with me. I love big dogs. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So, it seems like women like yourself are leading many important and forward-thinking, forward-moving organizations and companies in our home furnishings industry right now. So how does that feel? And do you see or experience anything different as a result of so many women collaborating to guide the future of our industry?
I think the collaborating is really the part of that really stands out. That's something that I really, once I got involved with it, which is the women's networking organization in the industry, you realize just how, as part of that group, everybody's there to support each other. And I mean, you really I could look up someone in the directory that I've never met and just call and say, hey, I'm a member of With It, and here's what I do, and I'd love to ask you a question about this, or what can you tell me about that? And so just working with these women, it's a great opportunity to collaborate. And I would even say maybe not necessarily even just women, maybe more forward-thinking people.
Right.
we have a group of association heads that meets every couple of weeks, and it really is just to kind of keep updated on what everybody is doing and how we can support each other.
That's great.
And so that is it is. I mean, we're an association, a nonprofit with not a huge budget, and so being able to collaborate with these different groups to help promote different initiatives and events, it
feels good.
Yeah. It feels good.
So usually what we like to do at the end of our podcast is ask people, what are 3 things that you would like to tell our listeners that they could take away for business or life? What are 3 that you would like to share?
So one that I always remember is from a mentor of mine, and he said, we're looking at all these initiatives that we had to get done. And he said, you know what? Sometimes it's helpful to not look at how far you have to go to really move the needle, everything that needs to be done. It's better to take a minute and look back and see how far you've come. And so I think that's always really something that I reflect on, because there is a lot. I mean, I look at all we did last year. It was amazing, and it really did move the needle. We still have so much to do.
Right.
But to be able to say, okay, you know what though, it's going to get done. It's look at everything we've already been able to accomplish. So that's something I think that I find really helpful, and was a good piece of advice shared with me. Another is talking about the women in the industry and collaborating and working together. I really lean on my mentors and my colleagues. Thankful to have a handful of people that I can talk to, I can get advice from, I can vent to, all very important things, but it's just good to have a good group of people that you can trust and lean on. And finally, I would say step out of your comfort zone. That is something that when I became managing director, those first few webinars that I had to do was terrifying. And while it still takes a lot of preparation, it's gotten easier. When I got the call about doing this podcast with you guys, I thought, I've never done a podcast. I don't know that I can do this, and I'll let you guys be the judge of how it went. But who knows? I might just start my own podcast now.
There you go. Look at you go.
We'll see. But,
very good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
I hope you have a great market.
Well,
and
you too.
We're certainly excited to see the Fashion Snoops event over at in Krypton, over at Hall of Fame.
Yes,
we'll be
I will
there.
see you there.
We'll be there.
Fantastic.
We have an event right afterwards. So
Okay,
we're
great.
excited to scope out the new building.
It's
and
so
I know
beautiful.
there's been so much heart and soul that's been put into all of the efforts around that new Hall of Fame building. So,
Well, thank you both so much for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope you learned something new about the world of textiles as it relates to interior design. For more information, check out the International Textile Alliance and their trade show Interwoven. If you're interested in learning more about Pearl Collective, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or visit us at thepearlcollective.com. We'll see you in next week's episode, so be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform if you haven't already.